Hello there. I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting of York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority in West Offices, York. Please note this will be a live broadcast meeting and will be available to view on the Combined Authority YouTube channel. So please ensure you use your microphones when speaking. We'll move on to agenda item 1 is apologise for absence. Are there any apologies?
No apologies.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 2, minutes of the meeting held on 22nd of July 2024. Regarding the minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of July 2024, are members content that the minutes are correct record of the meeting? The vote? Yeah. Happy. Agenda item number item 3 is the declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from anyone? No. Thank you. Agenda item 4 is public participation. Are there any questions or statements from the public for this meeting?
No questions.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 5 is just Mayor's update. So just an update of what we've been up to for the last couple of months, obviously. Which is a new agenda item and gives just the opportunity to provide you with a sort of update of what the Combined Authority has been doing. So since July, we've been busy continuing our engagement across York and North Yorkshire while launching some exciting projects which will support our business, residents and communities. York and North Yorkshire's Growth Hub, the Autumn Programme, which we launch at C4DI in North Allerton on the 23rd of August. The programme includes expert advice, transformation, skills development and investment readiness for our businesses across the region. Grow Yorkshire, which is initiative led by the Combined Authority, working in partnership with Yorkshire Agricultural Society and the Country Land and Business Association, has launched Farming Outlook. Farming Outlook is a radio show which aims to highlight and support farming communities across York and North Yorkshire. North Yorkshire Council has provided £20,000 in funding through the Shared Prosperity Fund to continue a trial of this. So thank you. We have continued our transport engagement, visited several places right across the region, including Selby and areas right across York and North Yorkshire, and particularly focusing on reliability of our bus service, particularly in isolated and rural areas. So that work will be ongoing. I also attended a public meeting at Selby Community Centre with as a guest of Keir Mather to hear the future of bus services in and around the Selby area in particular, and spoke with many residents. I think about 120 people that came to that meeting, which was well received. I also met with Chris Boardman in his role as Commissioner of Active Travel England, which are obviously based upstairs here in West Offices. Chris brought with sort of fresh ideas of how we can give residents across our rural, coastal and city region more choice when it comes to travel. All this work will feed into our future transport over the next few months or so. The deadline for the business board applications closed early August, and we're now actively interviewing. We've got about 12 more interviews to do. The first business board will be hopefully looking to take place in October. Just want to thank everyone who has shown interest in the business board. It's been incredibly well received and a really nice, diverse mix of businesses, entrepreneurs right across York and North Yorkshire. So it's been incredible to put that together. It's going to be a real challenge to get it down to the board size we need, but I think there's a great interest in the Combined Authority and what we're doing, which is fantastic. And finally, we celebrated the first 100 days in the post. This allowed us to share the work we've been doing via extensive social, stakeholder and press activities throughout the first 100 days in office, while giving us the platform to set the next steps out for the authority. So thank you everyone for your support over the last 100 or so days. Agenda item 6 is the Mayoral Investment Fund project funding decisions. I'll hand over to Liz Philpott, who will take us through this report. Thank you very much, Liz.
The report to be taken largely as read. Thank you. Report to be taken largely as read. We've highlighted within the report the full schedule of projects at section 4.1 that we're working on, and they are at various stages of the appraisal process that we need to go through. We apply HM Treasury Green Book appraisal standards to ensure obviously full business case requirements for the allocation of public funds. And the two that we've been able to conclude the appraisals on are noted in the recommendations at section 2.1. So the Scarborough Harbour project is actually enabling infrastructure to provide for the installation of the new boat hoist in the harbour. It's a larger funding package than the 700,000 that's been requested, and will enable North Yorkshire Council to go ahead with another funding application for the actual boat hoist itself. So the overall package of funding there is obviously in excess of the amount that we've been asked to put into the project. The second recommendation for today is the North Yorkshire Electric Vehicle Charging Infrastructure Improvement Project. And just to highlight that there are two areas, as noted in the report, that will benefit from the improvements to infrastructure. In Hambleton area, the existing charging point supplier has gone into liquidation, and there are currently no public EV charging infrastructure points. That contractor was appointed to deliver a pilot scheme which wasn't completed. And so the project in Hambleton is to replace the infrastructure that had been installed by that supplier, which is now unserviceable, and to complete the installations as originally planned that hadn't been completed. It will include new locations that were never delivered by that contractor, and also additional charging points at existing sites to meet the full original plan provision. And as noted, that's 37 points at least 7 locations. They will be replaced with state-of-the-art technology and current user interface, which obviously has moved on a lot. The technology is moving very quickly. In the Craven area, just to note that the original contractor has withdrawn from supporting public charging in favour of home charging, and unfortunately the original installations are not able to be transferred to other contractors. The project will ensure that Craven area continues to be supported with 13 supply points across 4 locations. And I just wanted to note as well that the council is unable to use the local electric vehicle infrastructure funding that it receives, the levy funds, because they can only be used to cover the cost of brand new infrastructure rather than replacement systems. So hence the request for the amount that's on the agenda, which is 175,000. So unless there are any questions, I'd like to make that recommendation for a decision. The report does just cover the other projects by reference, and as we've recommended as well, we will bring those back into the additional meeting that's been scheduled for the 2nd of October, when we do expect to have completed all the outstanding matters to enable recommendations to be made. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz, do members have any questions, please? Councillor Les?
Not a question. I'd just like to particularly welcome the money that we're going to get for the boat hoist, which is a contribution, as Liz has said, a contribution to the overall package of installing the boat hoist. Isn't the actual boat hoist itself. I mean, Scarborough is an area which the coastal economy is in need of investment, and it's in particular need of this investment for the fishing and offshore industry that's based in Scarborough. So particularly welcome that. But could I also welcome, Liz, your explanation about the EV charging points? Because if I lived in an area where I didn't have an EV charging point at all, I'd be a bit miffed if I saw that some areas were actually getting replacements to their EV charging. But because of the fact that the business has gone out of business, and that's why it's necessary to do it. So thank you for that explanation.
Thank you for that, Councillor Les. Any more questions for Liz on that all? Yes.
Not so much a question there, but more of a comment, really, just welcoming the investment across the region. You know, this is nearly £4 million that's coming into the region that wouldn't be coming into the region if we didn't have a combined authority. So very pleased that you're here, Mayor, so that we can start making the region better for everybody who's living in it. Just one other comment, just for any attentive members of the public. The movement and place transport study that we were looking to approve along with the other York projects at the next meeting in October. It's not just a study. That is, it's a movement and place plan that we will put in place in York to help us meet our goals of tackling congestion, reducing driven miles by 20%, making it easier to walk, cycle around the place, making it easier to get around the place on public transport. So it's a huge project that is maybe a little bit undersold by us calling it a study. So we'll maybe look at changing that next time. But very glad that they are all progressing and look forward to them coming through in October. I'm very happy to support the great projects that are going on in North Yorkshire too.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kilbane. Any further questions? Okay. Can I ask for a mover for the recommendations which can be found on page 14 of the agenda pack? Councillor Douglas, and a seconder. Thank you very much. Can we vote?
No.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Liz, for putting that together. Agenda item 7 is the Adult Skills Fund Strategic Skills Plan, which I will now hand over to Andrew Lehman to talk us through the paper. Thank you, Andrew, when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this paper really sets out part of the process that we're going through to be ready to take on devolved Adult Skills Fund. As it's now called, it was Adult Education Budget, but they changed the name to confuse us, I believe. So just picking up a couple of points of the report, really. One of the things that we've certainly undertaken is substantial consultation to set out this priority with both providers, with learners themselves, and lots of people that are involved in the current adult education field. And part of this is really so that we can get as smooth a transition as possible from the current way it's dealt with to the new arrangement under the combined authority. And what we want to do is to make that process much simpler when we go forward. We also want to raise the capacity of more local providers. Currently, we have potentially over 200 different providers that are operating across the area. And we want to make sure that that number is much more effective in terms of a smaller number, but actually a smaller number of very local providers. So that's one of the things that we aim for. The report sets out the key priorities in doing that around encouraging that wider access and participation, embedding particularly basic and transferable skills. Adult skills is very much about entry level, getting people back into education and then hopefully into an apprenticeship and into work. So it's very much aimed at that, trying to unlock the progression pathways, and particularly looking at some of our underutilised talent as a real potential in terms of how we can encourage people to start to get the right training for some of the new skills. And developing much more flexible provision so that it's much more flexible for both learners and businesses and the providers. As I say, building capacity and capability. So that's very much trying to work with some more of our local providers to make sure that we've got the right capacity and capability to deliver this training, and a much more collaboration and partnerships with providers. So the strategy aims to do that. It's primarily the rules of engagement commissioning document. So it will be what we start to look at in terms of how we procure this work out. And as I say, the key aim is to offer as smooth a transition as possible to the new system. That's all I need to say. Any questions? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Andrew. Do members have any questions for Andrew on that call? Okay.
Yes, thanks, Ben. It's not so much a question, Andrew, really, but a huge thanks to you, everybody in your team who's done so much work on this, but also all of the consultees. We have engaged with a huge range of stakeholders over this period of time to arrive at this place. So huge thanks to everybody that's been involved in the process so far. And it's no mean feat to pull all that together while we're going through a process of change to keep everything going smoothly with continuation, but actually for the strategic plan to fit really well with our overall economic plan for the combined authority. So I think it's a great piece of work, and thanks again to everybody that's been involved in it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kilbane. Any more questions at all? No. Can I ask for a move on the recommendations which can be found on page 22 of the agenda pack? And a second, and can we move to vote on that? Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Andrew, for that and that piece of work. Thank you. Now on to agenda item 8, which details round 2 of the Brownfield Housing Fund. Liz Philpott again will take us through this paper to consider a further round of approvals. Thank you, Liz. When you're ready.
Thank you. So this report follows our earlier report to the last executive meeting in July, when we brought forward proposals to allocate the balance from the 12.7 million that the now Ministry of MHC, Housing, Communities and Local Government. They used to be DLUC, that sort of started to roll off the tongue. But yeah, so MOCLG had allocated 12.7 million. We brought 3 projects forward at the last exec meeting that used up the remaining 3 million from that central government funding. And in July, we agreed in supporting those 3 projects, an additional 1.3 million was being contributed from the Mayoral Investment Fund. At the time we reported we'd had 6 applications. So this report covers the other 3 that were running slightly on a later timescale for appraisal. And they are the Lowfield and Ordnance Lane sites that City of York are developing, and Neville House at Gargrave through North Yorkshire Council. And the total amount of these projects that we're requested to consider today is a maximum additional amount of 3.36 million, but this would all be proposed to be allocated from the Mayoral Investment Fund. What that will enable us to do, just in general terms, before we talk about the 3 projects a little bit, is it enables us to overcommit. So we have a larger number of projects and value in the programme than the 12.7 that we're receiving from government. And that will enable us to actually take the total number of projects, which was 10 plus the 16 projects, and ensure that we fully utilise the national funding in the first instance. And there's some quite strict timelines around that, so we can meet that timescale, maximise the funding from central government, and then the overcommitment will be met from the local funds, and they aren't time critical as such. So we can allow some of the projects perhaps that are encountering delay problems and so on to work on a slightly slower timescale, but not put those projects at risk as such on the ground. So say there are 2 projects that City of York are promoting, and the one that North Yorkshire Council are promoting. The projects at section 5, there is a little bit more detail for each of them. The recommendations today are for approval, but these aren't quite as well advanced as the 3 that came through last month. That's why the appraisals were prioritised in the way that we've brought them forward to here for decisions. But you'll see from the information in section 5, we've highlighted the stages that the projects are at with planning and cost estimates and so on. But what we'd like to do is make the recommendation to allocate the funding today to give those projects certainty. Some of them will be bidding for other sources of funding, and what that enables the project to do is to go to those other potential funders, but have that certainty of money already being in the funding package to enable the projects to go forward. So the outcomes that we receive from the projects that we're considering today, along with the phase 2 ones that came through last time, were nearly 2.5 hectares of brownfield land developed, and actually they are 100% affordable homes in this second phase that we're looking at decisions today for. So I think, unless there are any questions, that's probably all I wanted to highlight. What we will do, because of there being some outstanding technical issues for each of the projects, subject to approvals today, we can arrange for grant funding agreements to be prepared. I say that gives the organisation certainty of certainly this element of funding, but we can put conditions into the grant funding agreements that have to be met before the funds are actually drawn down as grant. So rather than hold anything up until some of these possibly longer time scale issues are dealt with, for example, planning, one of them is two of them still require planning, and that process can be unpredictable and lengthy. We can make that a condition before grant funds are actually accessed, but we can still give that certainty of a decision. So I'd like to recommend the projects to be approved as proposed, please.
Thank you, Liz. When members have any questions? Yes, please.
Yeah, it's not a question. I just wanted to say that I can't overemphasize how valuable this pot of money and this programme has been, certainly to York, and I imagine to North Yorkshire as well. Just looking at the numbers that we've got here, this has unleashed 492 new homes in our region, 70% of which are affordable, which really is a huge achievement and so important for the people that live in our places across York and North Yorkshire, and a total of £17.36 million invested already. And given that the Mayor only came into office in early May, I think that really is quite going some. And also I think it's a testament to the work that the local authorities did together before the Mayor arrived in preparation for this. And I have to say that I am really very much looking forward to seeing Ordnance Lane come through to fruition in York. That is one of our reprofiled housing delivery programme sites that initially we've now got 100% truly affordable on there. It wasn't when we came into administration. There were homes for sale into the private sector for £400,000 and £500,000, and we're really delivering on really truly affordable homes for the people of York, and they desperately need it. So I'm very much supportive of this, and thanks for the opportunity. It would be very hard for us and the developers to go ahead with these projects without it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Douglas. Any more questions for Liz at all? No?
I suppose I should just say that I agree with everything that Claire has said. I mean, not just about York, but about North Yorkshire as well. I mean, this is a good start on a big project that we're going to have to face for the next few generations, even that, we have a shortage of housing, and we especially have a shortage of affordable housing. And this has gone some way to make it an excellent start on that.
Agree, very much so, yeah. Yes.
Just a passing comment. I suppose those that know me won't be surprised for me to have my eyebrows raised at management and administration costs. I'm just seeking an assurance that that is the absolute maximum that we're going to apply, because 4% on something that we're, I'm going to say, arm's length from. I know, lawyers are costly. I understand that. But it still seems that £500,000, a chunk of money, for something that we're not, delivering ourselves. So a simple assurance that that is the absolute maximum, and everything will be done to minimise that, because let's not forget, every pound that's going in admin is a pound that's lost to our communities.
Yeah. Do you want to comment on that, Liz?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we have highlighted that any unused budget from the 4% fee will be allocated to the projects and offset the call on the Mayoral Investment Fund. So I can absolutely confirm that that's the case. We will seek to keep that cost to a minimum. And I know that the original monetary equivalent of the 4%, that we already have some savings to declare against that, because we've unfilled vacancies that we haven't recruited to yet. We've managed that within our existing resources to get to the stage that we are now. So yes, please be reassured. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Any more questions at all on that? No. Can I Oh, sorry, yeah.
If I could just add, the last point on the recommendation actually is that we will seek other funds if and when there are announcements nationally, to actually bring further funding in, possibly towards these projects and offset the Mayoral fund if we're able to do that. Sometimes the criteria would prevent us from where projects are already in transit, but certainly to enable further programmes to be considered across the area. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much for that, Liz. Can I ask for a move on the recommendations, which can be found on page 80 of the agenda pack? And a seconder. And can we move to a vote, please?
Unanimous.
Thank you very much. We now move on to agenda item 9, the combined authority governance, which will be presented by Rachel Antonelli, interim deputy monitoring officer. Easy for you to say.
Thank you, Mayor. This report can be found from page 83 onwards of the agenda pack. There are 2 recommendations for members today. First, around the combined authority agreeing the allocation of portfolios for transport and housing in accordance with Appendix A of the report. And secondly, proposing an amendment to the terms of reference for the business committee, including changing the name of the committee to business board as set out in Appendix B. In respect of the portfolio holders, the Mayor may wish to speak further on these appointments. However, it's proposed that Councillor Kilbane will be the combined authority portfolio holder for transport and Councillor Les will be the combined authority portfolio holder for housing. Mayor, do you have anything else you want to say on this?
Yes, thank you, Rachel, for that. Yeah, I just welcome both Councillor Kilbane and Councillor Les into those 2 positions. We obviously know that transport and housing in particular are 2 of our biggest areas to tackle in York and North Yorkshire. It comes up obviously time and time again, so to have the expertise of Councillor Kilbane and Councillor Les supporting and leading on these 2 would be fantastic to see, and working right across York and North Yorkshire to really combat the issues we see around transport and, as we've stated in the previous agenda piece there, around the inaffordability of housing and the lack of housing. So I welcome both into the position. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. In relation to the proposals in respect of the business committee, the amendments in the main centre around the name change to business board, and also an introduction to the board with a proposed amendment at paragraph 4.8 of the report in relation to membership, including the Mayor and 2 members appointed from each constituent authority with responsibility for key areas such as business, transport, economy or skills. We will look to bring at a later meeting nominations for York and North Yorkshire Council membership onto the board. There is a specific provision also around remuneration being subject to the independent remuneration panel process, which would require combined authority approval to start that process in the future. Finally, there is provision around the rationale for quoracy to include members attending by remote means. That rationale being that the board is not a formal committee as defined under the Local Government Act 1972. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Rachel. Do members have any questions? Yes, please.
Just something that has sprung to mind. It's rather a technical point. The appointment of portfolio holders. I'm sorry, I haven't got the constitution to reference back, but should that not be in the gift of the Mayor, or do we technically, does the constitution state that this combined authority has to approve them? I would prefer the former, to be honest.
Yeah, it is in the gift of the Mayor, and the constitution does state it will be at the annual meeting, because that isn't so, it's for noting for members in essence.
It's just the recommendation that the combined authority agrees the allocation of portfolios. That's what threw me. So it's definitely in the Mayor's gift. Good. But so that recommendation is not needed, is it?
Well, to note.
To note.
So we'll amend that. Propose an amendment to that recommendation.
So in that case, then, does that need amending that recommendation? Because it's correct, isn't it? It needs to say to note, not that we approve it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not being awkward.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Striving for efficiency. Not being
You'll be moving the recommendation.
Sorry. Thank you. Any more questions for this time? So I will move that recommendation, which can be found on page 84 of the agenda pack. With the amendment, sorry, that's just been pointed out. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Yep. Okay. And a seconder?
Sorry.
Yeah. And then vote? Yeah, thank you. Addendum item 10, we now move to the forward plan, which will take as read. Can we approve the, oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry, Paul. Forgive me on that. I'll move to Paul for the forward plan on agenda item 10. Sorry, Paul. Missed that bit.
That's quite okay. I'm quite happy for you to move if you wish to, but while I've got the microphone, yeah, I'll do a little bit of an update for members. Members will be quite familiar with the forward plan by now. It comes to every meeting as a record of any upcoming decisions of the combined authority. It's updated regularly between meetings, but as you'd be aware, it comes to every meeting for information. A couple of points to highlight since the last time it came in July. A couple of decisions have changed slightly. The bus service improvement plan has been agreed as a mayoral decision within the scope of the legislation rather than a combined authority decision. So that's been corrected and that's been enacted. One item has moved from the previous version, which is the corporate plan. That will be moving into the new year at the January meeting. And an additional item has been added around the Mayoral Investment Fund, which will come back to each meeting as a standard item for any required decisions or updates on those programmes. In addition to the items that have been changed, there's been an additional meeting programmed for the beginning of October. That's been added primarily to deal with the growth plan, which is a government timescale that we need to meet. So a special meeting's been arranged, but taking advantage of that additional meeting, that will also consider the appointment of the Combined Authority's new monitoring officer and an item dealing with the novation of contracts from the previous local enterprise partnership. In addition, since the papers went to print last week, the draft strategic local transport plan, forgive me, has been moved back to the November meeting rather than the October meeting. Other than that, I have no other changes to highlight, but quite happy to take any questions, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any questions there for Paul at all? Can we approve the forward plan taken to the 31st of May 2025? Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Paul. Agenda item 11, urgent business. Do you have any urgent business? No urgent business. Very much. Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of this meeting. I want to thank everyone for their comments and approvals today. There's additional meeting in the agenda coming up, which will be taking place on Tuesday, the 2nd of October, 2024 at 4 p.m. at West offices. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.